Hello and welcome to the Climate Commission podcast, Climate Chats with Students. I'm your host, Sonya and I am the Climate Commission Officer for the Climate Commission for UK Higher and Further Education. The Climate Commission is a partnership between Association of Colleges, EAUC, Guild HE and Universities UK, and we're working to coordinate climate action in the sector. And actually November is a special month because it marks 1 year since the Climate Commission launched. And so this month we have lots of great updates for the sector and the wider public on our work to advance climate action. So today's episode is with Laura Benczes, who is a recently graduated sociology student from Queen Margaret University in Musselburgh, near Edinburgh. And we spoke about how sociology interacts with the climate crisis and her brilliant dissertation work, which I've been very fortunate to be able to read. So I'm here today with Laura Benczes, and Laura and I are going to be discussing Laura's degree in sociology as well as other work she's done in sustainability. How are you doing today, Laura?
Oh, I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm trying to look outside. The weather's not great. Otherwise, I would have asked you if you were going to go to the beach or do something outside.
Oh, luckily, I was yesterday for a quick walk. But yeah, today I'm not leaving the house, that's for sure.
So today I just want to hear more about your sort of journey in your education and how it relates to the climate crisis and sustainability. So my first question is something I've been asking all the guests, and it's hopefully basic, but I do understand it can be kind of complicated. So why did you decide to study sociology at Queen Margaret University? And if you could just tell us what your education journey was prior to studying sociology.
Yes, so I grew up in Budapest, Hungary. And what I can say about it as environmentalism is not really a big topic there yet. It is among some people, but unfortunately it's not one of the main things that concerns the public or especially the politicians. Mm-hmm. But when I was growing up, our high school was named an eco school because they planted some trees or recycled some stuff. So we didn't have it too much. I just had some conversation with parents. I always watched the news, even as a teenager. So obviously started to pop out more and more about saving the earth and climate change. Mm-hmm. And sociology is because I was always very people oriented. So I liked being among people, and I was more of the quiet kid, but the type of quiet kid that's like looks at people and see how they interact. And I was always fascinated how different people are, how they influence each other. So basically how people behave with each other. So I studied 1 year of university in Budapest before coming to Scotland. But my plan was always to come to Scotland, and Queen Margaret was the choice because when I wasn't sure which to choose, I sent out emails to the universities here in Edinburgh. Mm-hmm. Because my brother has lived here, and so Edinburgh was the goal. Mm-hmm. And Queen Margaret was the friendliest one. Mm-hmm. I don't know who was the secretary back then, but basically it's thanks to her that I chose them because because she wrote in a very friendly way that they would be delighted if more people joined their studies, and this is where I have to apply and what course to use, and these are the courses, and if I have any questions I can email her. And because I already studied 1 year of sociology in Hungary, which was more of like theory based, and environmentalism is definitely not part of it, unfortunately. It was more of the what did older men say in the previous years about sociology. So it's more like a theory, which is, I think, also important, but it shouldn't take up all of it. And I like the approach that Queen Margaret was taking when I saw on their website what they teach in sociology, that it's more of public. That's why it's called public sociology, because it's more concerned with people and locals and how we can help each other and how we can study each other. So that's why I have decided to choose Queen Margaret and then move here.
So public sociology, so that's what's like would the other just be like more theoretical? I'm just curious.
Yes.
This is the first time I've heard the term public sociology.
Yes, I was surprised too, but even in the very first year, they said that it's called public sociology instead of simply sociology
Hmm.
because it's more people focused. So there's theory, we had a lot of theories as well, and all the people who have basically made up sociology and, all those people in the 19th century who went around the world and studied
Yeah.
other people's cultures,
Yeah.
which then went separately archaeology and sociology, but is still concentrated on people and how they interact with each other and how they live. So
Mhm.
that was Queen Margaret's focus too, that it's more like less theory and more like studying about people
Mhm.
themselves.
Yeah. So you did mention that you also had like an interest in the crisis and climate change from a young age because your school was involved in a few sustainability initiatives. When did you sort of decide that you wanted to study more about like climate change and the climate crisis? And when did you sort of know that it was a concern for you and something that you wanted to understand more?
I think about a year ago, I started to become more interested in it, to read more news about it. And then when the last year at university started, we have classes about environmental activism, like
Mhm.
the pipelines in the US and
Yeah.
how poor people or oppressed people suffer the most. And obviously, because it's a sociology course, we didn't really learn ecology and or the scientific names for climate change, but more like how people are also endangered by it. And
Yeah.
obviously, animals too. But the main topic was that we forget that we are victims too.
Yeah.
So that's when I thought that when it came to time to choose a topic for the dissertation, to perhaps go in this area because I didn't really see it as a popular topic among others. And
Mhm.
also online, when I searched if there are like scientific articles or books about individuals being active, it's not really available.
Mhm.
It always focuses on groups or like more like psychological side. And I really had to remain on the sociology path. So that's when I decided to do this. And that's when I was influenced by it to then read more about it. And while I was doing the dissertation, I learned more about all the issues that come with climate change. And on the other side, also with my flatmate, we're trying to become more zero waste and more
Mhm.
environmental friendly. So we make well, she makes soaps, but we made like shampoo and all this
Oh, wow.
stuff, trying to buy all the cleaning products that are like eco-friendly,
Yeah. Yeah.
slowly shifting in that area. And during this year of last year at university, we were experimenting with this, and that is one of the reasons as well that I became interested in this topic.
Wow, that's really interesting. Is it difficult to make shampoos?
Well, you just have to buy the ingredients. It's a bit hard, like how can you totally become zero waste, because obviously you have to order it and then it comes and it has
Yeah.
to be brought to you. But it's still better because when it goes down the shower drain, and when it's finished, you don't throw out the plastic bottle and now chemicals go into the ocean. It's all natural stuff.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. And I feel like it is difficult because we are stuck in this place where it's like we really want to be sustainable, but like we still have to live in like this world where things aren't sustainable. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yes, and that's the other problem is that it's cheaper to be unsustainable.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
what would a poorer person do? Will they buy the expensive eco-friendly cleaning stuff and cosmetics, or will they quickly grab the cheapest one from the shelf?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so I hope that in the future it will be more available so people can shift to it.
Yeah. So I'm really interested in your dissertation, and I was wondering if you could tell me a bit more about the dissertation, so what the topic was, and I guess how you went about it, and yeah, whatever you want to share.
So the dissertation, as I said, had to focus on the sociological side of environmentalism. So the focus was on activists.
Hmm.
And my goal was to interview a few activists from whichever group they belong to, or even if they don't belong to an organization, but what motivates them, how do they build their network, how do they influence others to join or be interested in it at least.
Yeah.
And how do they understand the climate change, and what do they think the future holds for it. So basically that's obviously first I did the literature review, and that's when it came to me that some after the interviews, analyzing the interviews, that how it contradicts it a bit. So for example, the literature is always focused that young people are the ones who are more active, young people this, young people that. And one of the persons, I can't say their names, but they were like Scottish, English, French, Hungarian, and and then Canadian. So it was interesting viewpoints. And one of them was a Scottish lady who was 75, and she has been active for the past 30 years.
Wow.
Ever since she was a teacher, she did a group at her school that focused on sustainability, and they discussed climate change. She took part in almost probably every protest in the UK. She traveled everywhere to join it. She's active in Friends of the Earth and even Extinction Rebellion. So it really contradicted the literature that, well, you know, she's not 20 and yet she believes in it so much and she wants to make change so much that she puts effort in it and energy. So that was interesting from it. And I also asked them how do they interact with others. So obviously the elderly participants didn't really use social media, but they talk about it to friends, family. Then the younger people do use social media, but interestingly, they are not that active on there as I thought they would be. And it's more of a person base. And basically I asked, how is it to join the organization? Do they feel welcome? Because the literature is really like focused on how joining a group can change you and your perception and your self belief and all that. And they said, no, I'm just happy to be among people who agree with me, and I don't have to put in the effort to tell them the truth and about the climate change. They just know it is, and at least we can go from that step to the next step, which is discussing ideas. So that was what came out of it, that they are in their groups and they try to reach out to people. Obviously they get negative answers too, but nothing too, nothing too crazy. Luckily, the only thing, the negative was like maybe some comments on the street when they were protesting, like find a job, or some silly comments like that, which obviously don't have anything to do with protesting. But so that was one of the things that was interesting for me, that the literatures said all these things and then these people basically contradicted it.
That is
experience.
No, I'm really interested in your dissertation. I was really lucky to get to read it. And I think that using sociology as a lens to understand climate activism is really interesting and definitely not something that I've come across before often. And so I was wondering, if you just take the subject of sociology, what are other ways that sociology interacts with the climate crisis? So I know you said that you took a course on climate activism, and then now you've done your dissertation on climate activism. But do you know of any other areas where sociology sort of advances our knowledge of the climate crisis, and were your course mates also interested in the climate crisis?
Unfortunately, no. As I said in the Hungarian one, I could see all the modules up to the last year, and it was not included. So I think maybe Queen Margaret is one of the rare ones that put environmentalism in sociology. But I would have to do perhaps more research about the other unis here, but it might be something that's mostly found here in the UK perhaps, or Scotland, that's where it's brought up, which I think would be important to bring up everywhere, because what people forget is that they think climate change is just science and animals. And they forget that as I said, there are people who are victims too, and we will be victims. And they forget that sociology intertwines with the climate change crisis in a way that people are devastated through what climate change does to them, like the droughts, the hurricanes, So that's what the participants have emphasized too, that we forget that it's about people, society, that sociology focuses on people and how they interact and how they live, and that's why it should focus on environmentalism, because it does influence how we live and interact. And it can bring people together or unfortunately divide them like they are divided now. But if we just educate people, I think that's the most important part. So you can make up your mind what you believe in, even unfortunately, even if there's scientific evidence, people prefer not to accept it. But if at least they are taught, then they can rethink it. They have access to research, they can research it. They have classes to discuss it. They can discuss it and learn from others, and maybe learn from them. Actually, that's how we can change, I think, how people see this topic. And teams, friends, colleagues have an influence on how we think. So I that's what the participants have also said, that that's why it's important to network with each other, to talk to others, to talk to friends, family, because it's like a tree. If you talk to the friends, friends talk to friends, they talk to their friends, and then it goes, as a wave.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think what you said, so using sociology to understand how we're victims of climate change. I think what else is really interesting is using sociology to understand how we also like perpetuate the climate crisis. So like the various systems like capitalism and plastic production and like the way our society sort of contributes to climate change basically is interesting in a sociological sense to me.
Yes, and obviously I had to have choose one topic for dissertation, but if I had the resources, it would be cool, or even for others, more professionals, to just go into it dive into it more. And study how people basically believe this works and how people are affected. Basically to concentrate on it more, to educate. And I wouldn't have mind if we had more classes about it as well, and less essays maybe, but more of projects. For example, if you made an organization that's that's against the climate change, what would you organize? How would you organize? Who would be part of it? How would you get new members? Because networking and all of it is part of sociology too. So I think that could be included in the future when people teach environmentalism in the sociological aspect. That yes, that's how we work. And as you said as well, the production, the consumerism. That's what. So we can make changes if we demand more eco-friendly products. The brands will have to kind of accept it and do it, so that we will keep buying their stuff, what they sell. So
so in terms of how you'd like to see sociology taught in the future, you want more, I guess, to prepare us for the climate crisis and to understand climate change. Like, I think, are you saying that more experiential learning would be better? So instead of sitting at your desk and writing an essay, learning about organizing.
Yes, because that's obviously an important part, to first have the basics and know. But if we can theorize or even bring it to life, our ideas about it, it would be even better. And also what there was in the dissertation, what the participants have said, that some of them were part of Friends of the Earth, Extinction Rebellion. They also had different opinions of these groups. Most people didn't like Extinction Rebellion. Some people said positive things about it. Most people liked Friends of the Earth, that it has a friendlier approach and it's more about educating than scaring. So this was interesting. And also one of the participants said that they believe it's more important to work with locals, for example, a small group to teach them about sustainable living. And that was maybe one of the most interesting answers, because it's true. We can make changes, we can reach out globally and educate people and write all these petitions and join Facebook groups. But it is true that first we have to start locally, because how can we influence people from on the other side of the ocean if we can't even teach people in our area, if they don't care, why would they care on the other end of the world?
Yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah.
yes, so if we just reach out, and unfortunately right now it's a bit hard because of this virus, but
Mm.
yeah, it would be interesting to basically teach it at university as well, that basically for the university to make connections to all these big and small organizations and groups and activists, and give the option, do you want to join for extra credit, even to
Yeah.
make people want to do it more, to motivate them, you can get extra credit if you do it, or it's compulsory, or it's not compulsory, but it would look good on your CV, why don't you do it?
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend there, and then you just say, oh, okay, professor, can you email them? Yes, there's a meeting, why don't you go? And then obviously then it's the students' decision when they go to the meeting, for example, what they do.
Yeah.
But if there were more like connections, and then it's shown to the students and as a possibility, and even pushed a little bit, obviously not aggressively. The moment something is pushed aggressively, people will want it less.
Yeah.
But yes, it is like an option. Like,
Yeah.
why these are these organizations? That's what you have to know about them. You can do a presentation about it, maybe join them, have interviews there, something like that. So I think that would be important to add to sociology, and not just at my uni, but even in Hungary,
Everywhere.
it would be
Yeah.
awesome if they did. Yes.
Yeah, and something like that is like mutually beneficial. It's like beneficial to the student, to the institution, and to the or like the local organization. So it is benefiting everyone essentially.
Yes, yes, exactly. Especially when you go on the street and people still throw their rubbish away when there's a bin a few meters away. It like infuriates me. Why? Like, you still don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just why do you're basically polluting your own area. You will be working in the same spot next day too. You will see your own rubbish. How will you feel?
Yeah.
Why
It's
do
your
you do
home.
this?
Yeah.
like, like people still do it, and that's why this local focused focusing on the local should be more important
Yeah.
as a first step for smaller people, in the sense, not the big organizations only,
Yeah.
but for like individuals or small startups or small groups to activists to focus on the local first.
Yeah, and that way we feel like a sense of responsibility to our like home, and so we won't litter or we won't do things that will harm it. Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's really interesting. So my last question for you is, so now you have a degree in sociology. Congrats, I know you just finished this year.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing. And you have an incredible dissertation that you've written, and you found some really important information about climate activism. So I was interested in where you see yourself now in the future. Like, what kind of, do you want to work in sustainability, and what does a career working in sustainability as a sociologist mean to you? What would that look like?
Yeah, so this is a bit of a toughie for me just now, because I would like to go in that direction, but I'm still like finding out ways how could I implement my sociology degree to that, because a lot of places that work in sustainability expect more of a scientific course related to it, ecology.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I will in the future definitely to work with communities, to work with people perhaps
Yeah.
in that area. I cannot say anything concrete yet, but I am looking on the internet. I am trying to do research on what are the possibilities, because as a community, in a community engagement mixed with environmentalism would be quite an ideal for me to, yeah, like locally, as I said, to work in Edinburgh, um,
Yeah.
because yes, I plan to stay here, to work in Edinburgh, and with people and reaching out to them, organizing events perhaps to raise awareness, organizing protests, whatever in that direction.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's why, since sociology is not seen as part of it, it's a bit tougher.
Mm-hmm.
But I do try to emphasize that there's the interest, there's the basic knowledge.
Yeah.
Let me learn more, teach me.
Yeah. And also, like, I think like um that employers and like climate organizations are definitely going to have to change what they understand, what they see as like climate knowledge, because your understanding of the climate crisis and of climate change is so important because it's coming from like a people perspective, and you're understanding how people think and how people work, which is equally important to the science, you know? So I think that we're definitely going to have to place more value on like climate knowledge from sociology and from anthropology and, you know, all the different social sciences as well.
Yes, and even like all these participants in the study, they are amazing people. So if they were not only seen as just another activist, but they would be taken more seriously by their own organizations, for example, because if the organizations themselves would physically advertise these people who are part of them,
Yeah.
who protest with them, that look, anyone can join, anyone welcome, please, if you know it happens, you can do something with for it. If you are not sure, we can basically educate you, we can talk to you. These are all these people from your city. These are all average yet amazing, if I can say average in a non-condescending way. I mean it in a positive way. But
You're
an everyday, yes, like an everyday person, not like a CEO or a millionaire who is bored. So now his hobby is to make an organization because he wants to have a weekend program. So
yeah.
it's for people by the people. So that's what they could emphasize more, so that I see someone like me on somewhere, not like me personally, but some person on a poster that, see, are you interested? That's what we do. Join here or come to a meeting. Something like that, for example, to emphasize their own people, the smallest in the organization, not the rich part of it, the top part that take the all the money that people send in, but all those who actually do something, who protest, um, who basically do all these activism online or in person, who have an interesting take on it. They come from different countries, different walks of life, from poverty, from middle class, so they have different view on it, how they reached out to it. Oh, I had time, so I just went into a meeting and got interested. Or, well, in my community, I saw all the pollution and that basically they dump things on us because we are the poor area.
Yeah.
So I want to get their attention and change this approach.
Yeah.
So that's what people forget, that it's against people too. So poor people, even in every country, basically get the worst part of it.
Yeah, definitely, in every single country. Thank you so much for sharing that. Do you have anything else that you'd like to say?
I would just add that even I have to learn a lot more about this, and I would like to learn more and join these people, and for them to basically enlighten us what they do, how they do it. So I would like to focus on them in the future as well. And I still have a lot to learn and grow in this area. And I think if it's really like everyday people chatting with us, it's more influential than some big person saying what we should do. Oh, don't buy this in the shop because it's not eco-friendly. Yeah, but you're polluting the bigger way. So tell me, what will you do so that I can do something as well?
Yeah, and also like you've kind of been saying this, but yeah, so like as young women, like we definitely have a lot to learn about the climate crisis, but I feel like we also have just so much to offer and so much to say and so much to contribute. So
yes, exactly, all those different viewpoints, like women have, especially women in poverty or in third world countries, could teach us a lot and enlighten us how they suffer, how they live. Children, what they see, adults, poor, middle class, rich, however they see it, however they experience it, however they can help each other, however we can help each other. So that should be more of a focus on a people level.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed learning more about your dissertation and like talking about this, and I think you have lots of very interesting insight that I'm excited to share with everyone.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you for this opportunity.